What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 77 of Nintendo Noise, Flipscreen Games' weekly Nintendo podcast. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined as always by my beautiful British boys, Mr. Stephen Radford.
Hello, hello.
And Mr. Max Wright.
Ahoy, boys.
Ahoy, boys. Indeed. We're back, baby. It's time. For the first time since September, we have had a Nintendo Direct, and I think, I think especially for certain types of fans, like my boy over here on the monitor, who's already bobbing and weaving over here, Mr. Max Wright, pretty good one. So we're gonna be talking all about everything we saw on today's show, kicking things off with, of course, Pikmin 4, which, let's go. I'm very, very pleased to get another deeper look at this game. Super excited to get my mitts on it,
isn't it? It's our first look. We've not seen anything other than a logo before, right?
Yeah, we got a logo reveal of it was like in development, but yeah, this was like the first proper look of seeing some of the new Pikmin skills and like a new creature and things like that.
I could have sworn that they showed a little B-roll with the last one, but maybe you're right, and it was just the logo. But
no, I remember like they started with like a little B-roll of like an outside garden area, and then showed the Pikmin logo. But I don't think we ever saw any of the motion and like actual gameplay.
Whereas like this, like, I mean, you get a real sense of it, right? Like you can, like, the lighting and everything looking really, really nice. Some new enemy types, like you said. There's the new the ice Pikmin, which is the first new Pikmin type that we've seen. This cute little like dog alien sidekick character that you get as well as kind of a new traversal tool. A lot of really cool, interesting stuff there.
Yes. So I was watching it, and all I was sort of thinking was, yeah, this definitely looks like a Pikmin game. And the more I sort of like absorbed it and thought of it, I was like, well, no, yeah, I think there's some sort of enough stuff in here to make it different, because Pikmin 3 very much focused on the having three characters thing, and if this is like returning back to sort of the older games where you just had the one character, it was very focused, but upping all the other stuff like Pikmin types and enemies and stuff like that, I think it's going to be a very interesting sort of a game that earns its place, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to giving this one a go.
Yeah, I feel like the third one was like you said, is like very focused on like having multiple groups and like kind of activating things across the map at the same time and stuff like that, And like this, it really feels like the name of the game is like new ways to interact with the environment, between like the dog character that you can use to like knock things down, or you can ride him, the ice Pikmin that let you get across water. They showed like a section where you were able to like climb up a wall and stuff like that. Those are all things that, you've not historically been able to do. And it's interesting to think how that's going to open up the environments,
Yeah, I like that. I think that was one of the things that put me off of Pikmin 3 was the constant management of having to swap between characters and swap between like different areas and like back and forth, and it became confusing. It kind of took me out of the gameplay and the moment to moment, I think, at times. Whereas this, having played Tinykin and it being on my Game of the Year list last year, kind of feels like that in some ways. Like I'm just moving around, I'm interacting with specific places and like specific items and switching between Pikmin to kind of figure it all out. I like the look of it. I think I'm probably gonna end up picking this one up.
Yeah, me too. This is definitely like a day one purchase for me. And yeah, very cool to get a release date for it as well. I predicted prior to the event that we were going to get a window rather than an actual date, but July 21st, so something to look forward to.
Big, very special day. That's my 30th birthday.
Oh, congratulations.
Oh, what a gift for you, Max. What a lovely present.
I will accept the present from you. Thank you very much for promising that, guys. That's really nice of you.
Yeah, you're
sure
welcome.
We can get you a copy of Pikmin, Max. That would be no problem.
I think we can manage that. Yeah, so I'm super stoked about that one. I think, I don't know, I honestly think overall that was probably my personal favorite announcement, because even though I think there are probably things that are more hype within it, I do really love Pikmin and getting an idea of what the identity of this game is, and actually having like a solid release date on it after hearing about it for what feels like forever, right? Like 10 years almost at this point.
Yeah,
it
became a meme at one point, right?
We got Let's Go Pikmin, or whatever the hell it was called. So
Hey, Hey You Pikmin, wasn't
Hey
it?
You Pikmin.
That,
That's it.
yeah,
That is-
yeah. And then, well, and who
And
could
there's
forget
and there's
Pikmin
like
Bloom?
what's it called? Like Pikmin Bloom, like Pikmin Go.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, that looks not fun.
It
yeah, because
wasn't.
people are definitely playing that. Yeah.
Didn't they dedicate a whole bit of the September directs to it as well?
Just to talk about it
Yeah,
again.
yeah, it was like, please play this game that we invested money into. Please, no one's playing it. Please play it.
Miyamoto's
play
really
it.
sad that you're not playing this game. Go check it out.
Yeah.
He's wearing a t-shirt and everything.
But yeah, so aside from that, we got another look at, or I guess a fresh look at the next set of DLC coming to Xenoblade Chronicles 3. So that's expansion volume 3 and 4, which will be the next two. For 3, we're getting another new hero character. That'll be dropping on the 16th, and then for 4, that's kind of like the big story expansion that's been promised. And
that's the sort of it which I'm expecting to come as like a standalone kind of thing. And I'm gonna be honest, I big Xenoblade fan, haven't cared about any of the expansions before then. I knew we were building up to this, and I'm generally not a big fan of sort of going back in and unlocking new characters like they have done before.
sure.
But this when I got to the end of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I was thinking they've not done quite what I would have liked them to do with the series, sort of tie a bow on it and sort of bring it all together like was sort of hinted at. But I liked what they did enough to sort of say, yeah, that was a good game. However, this expansion is now doing exactly what I wanted to do, exactly what I expected from Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and it's doing it in what looks like a cracking way. I'm very excited to this. To have Shulk and Rex back in the story from the first two games, having Alvis wielding a Monado with sort of the wings of Zanza from the first game, I think this is going to sort of be the perfect little ending for the Xenoblade series. And I think like if this is where it ends and they've sort of wrapped it all up, great, because I think this is going to be fantastic.
Very nice. We'll have to get Chewy on to talk to you about it whenever that comes to pass, so you guys can.
Or you guys
out
could
about
play
it.
it. You never know.
Yeah, that's not happening, man.
Like I'd love to get back to it at some point. I think there's a pretty low likelihood that I will, but even if I do, I won't be able to appreciate, I think, like the bow wrapping because I haven't played the first two, Obviously I recognize Shulk, but yeah, like I didn't know who Rex was until you just said his name, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's the protagonist from the
I
second
cringe
game, right?
every time Rex opens his mouth and he just sounds like that. I'm just like, why? Why do you sound like that? So Yorkshire. And no offense to Yorkshire people, but it just doesn't match his face at all. It really just does not.
I'm going to comb Yorkshire and find a guy who looks just like Rex.
Someone exists out there. And, I do want to apologize real quick. I misspoke. It's February 15th is when expansion Volume 3 comes out. So then we got a look at Samba de Amigo Party Central, which is like a new... I mean, the Samba de Amigo series has existed for a while from Sega. And, they're rhythm games with this, like, insane-looking monkey who has maracas. And this one has, like, a real, like... it feels like a Wii game, right? It's, like, a very, like, motion controls, kind of, like... like Beat Saber, but, like, not as cool.
Yeah,
Cooler,
that's what I thought about. I was like, I just want that. If I'm playing a game like this, I think I just want to play it in VR, or I want to play it at an arcade with actual maracas rather than just like some Joy-Cons at home.
If you're playing if someone's watching you play Beat Saber, they're never ever going to want to have sex with you, right? Because it's just one of the most icky things to watch someone play Beat Saber. Watching someone bop around with some maracas with a monkey, I'm shagging them, right?
I've got a sombrero, maybe.
Yeah, Steve, if you've got a sombrero on, I'm sorry to Macaulay. Sorry to your partner. I'm taking it. I'm having it.
Okay, well, there you go. So if you want to be on the
wearing
top
a sombrero in Max's presence.
if you want to jump to the top of Max's to-do list, make sure you pick up Samba de Amigo when it comes to Switch summer 2023. Next up, we got...
I think the highlight of the show for me, which was Fashion Dreamer. I mean, wow. I personally cannot wait for this Switch exclusive that comes out in 2023. And I'm just going to rock my fashion brand in this absolutely bizarre game.
I want to be like very clear. The premise of this game is not the problem, right? Like, I think this just looks like this doesn't. it looks like a
Did you not like the rip-off Animal Crossing UI? Like what did
that's
that
what I'm like.
did that not sell it for you?
It straight up feels like one of those mobile games where you're like, damn, like how have they not been sued over this? Like,
Yes.
just it has like exactly the same UI for the clothes, which is something else. But this like as a concept, right? Like for a game, I think makes a lot of sense actually. Like I could see something like this being successful, but like this looks so like I don't know, just like nothing. Like it looks very, very like shallow. And it's not crazy to me that a game like this was made and exists on Switch, but like the fact that they're like touting it in a direct,
They're really excited about it being
strange.
exclusive as well. It's just like, what?
Like they used to do Style Savvy in that way, right? Style Savvy was published by Nintendo. It was like a Nintendo. Is it Style Savvy? There was a franchise that was like similar to this. You dress people up. It was published by Nintendo. It was a Nintendo exclusive series, and this very much felt like that. Was it Style Savvy?
It does look like that's It does look like
And it
that's
makes sense that it
Style
looks like
Boutique,
this. It's
that's
by
what
the
we
people
had.
that make Story of Seasons. So like that's the kind of spiritual successor to the what's it called games, right?
They made 4 Style Savvy games. Wow. All published by Nintendo. Big series.
Storied franchise. Where's
Yeah,
the,
huge for
where's
them,
the
yeah.
Smash representation
The
for
latest
Style
in
Savvy?
the storied franchise of I can't remember what it's called now.
Style Savvy. You nailed it.
Style Savvy.
Wow,
thank
this
you.
is from the same people that made Monster Hunter Stories and Rune Factory.
Fashion
Really?
I know they
Dreamers?
just published it.
What Xseed is it?
I guess they're just
Oh,
publishing
Marvelous.
Okay.
it. Yeah, Marvelous, yeah.
Did they do Monster Hunter Stories? I thought that was just a Capcom thing.
Apparently it was co-developed with and published by Capcom.
I don't know. Hopefully it's better than it looks. But I don't know. I don't know about all that.
Yeah, genuinely, I was like, this was the point where I was just like, I mean, Samba de Amigo was probably there. I was like, okay, right, this is going to be a direct where we're kind of scraping the bottom of an ever thinning barrel to find some more Switch games we can shove in a Nintendo Direct presentation. And I don't think it got much better for a while. For me.
It's funny because like I guess normally sometimes we talk about our overall feelings on the Direct earlier, but I was gonna save that for after the fact because it's
Don't
like
jump in with your S tiers like you did before.
no, because I don't think this was like
No.
I thought
Fine.
that Direct was definitely better than this one, and I know I was in the minority on that one, but like I think the highs of this one are very high, but like. Yeah, the pacing on this was a little much. Like I felt that it was 45 minutes by the end of it.
Oh
You know,
yeah, absolutely.
the next
Yeah,
one.
I was literally just like, I'm here for 40 minutes waiting for Zelda. That was how I felt by the end.
The next game I did think looked good though. We got a proper look at the Return to Castlevania DLC for Dead Cells, which is due out on March 6th. And I think this looks great actually. I never played Dead Cells, so I'm certainly not like well versed in it, as a game, but I know it was obviously very well received. It was kind of one of the big indies the year it came out. And I mean, I think this looks hot, like this looks like a legit expansion.
I don't know why it's DLC though. Why is this not a standalone game? Like it looks like its own thing. It's really weird to me that this is DLC for another game. That if I want to play this game, I have to buy Dead Cells and then this DLC. Like it
Yeah,
should just be its own thing.
I don't know if I just can't quite work out if it's going to be a oh my god, how have I lost that so quickly? Oh, I can't work out if it's going to be like its own like section that you go into the game and you go into it, or if it's going to be similar to the other expansions of the other areas in the game, where you navigate to that area, you do that area, you do the boss, and you move on rather. But obviously, there's a certain specific path you
Yeah.
have to take and things you have to do in the right order to get there.
I would
But I
guess
feel
it would
like-
be a new launcher. Like a different, like you scroll and start new Castlevania or Return to Castlevania story or
I
whatever.
get the feeling that because there's only 2 bosses, that might not be the case, and that this might just be an area in the game that happens to have, new weapons, new bosses, whatever. We'll see when it comes out, but I feel like it's going to be like an area in the game, and the reason it's not standalone is because this is just folded into the rest of
Yeah.
Dead Cells, which I'd
It's
highly
just like
recommend
weird because
playing. Pete.
didn't they say Richter is a playable character though?
I don't know actually.
It's like the idea that you would be able to have a playable character only in one section, I think, was the thing that like made me think, oh, this is probably like a separate campaign. You know,
I don't know because I know that Dead Cells has a lot of other sort of playable characters, and I'm pretty sure like it's like one of those games where or a load of expansions would go, oh, this has got Hollow Knight stuff in it, this has got Shovel Knight stuff in it, like that kind of thing. So I think there might be other playable characters within Dead Cells. If I'm wrong, I'd like to be corrected in the comments. But I feel like it's going to be another one of those. Maybe it's just like a skin or a character that has a specific weapon. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to really work out. I'm looking. I'll see what happens when it comes out, but I'm not really massively bothered about replaying Dead Cells. Just play this one bit of content, if I'm being honest with you. As much as this content does very much scream to me, the music's great.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I mean, I'm reading the description, and apparently and it says slay hordes of supernatural minions as you progress through our biggest DLC yet, including 2 levels, 3 bosses, and a new storyline. So I guess it's not as expansive as I potentially thought with 2 levels and 3 bosses. Then
I mean, 2 levels is fairly, fairly spacious, I guess. If a level is the same size as levels in normal Dead Cells, you've got a little bit of content there. But yeah, you'd only really go through that. You could probably go through that quite
yeah, it's
quickly
not
as
a
a
full game's
standalone.
worth though.
No,
Yeah,
no.
which is why it makes sense to be a DLC.
How much is it? How much is the DLC?
They've not got a price on it yet.
Oh, I thought you could pre-order it. Okay, all right. Oh, it said pre-orders like later, didn't it? So
Yeah.
fine.
yeah, that's interesting because it's right around the corner, March 6th, right? It's like it's about a month away. You'd think you'd have that information handy now, considering they kind of just. I feel like this was its big kind of coming out party, right? Because before it was just kind of like this exists. This was we got.
Yeah, but this was like part of that, like the headline section, right? And this was, I think, was one of my problems with the show. It's just like we skipped over some good stuff to kind of squeeze in some of the not so good stuff, right? I would have loved to have seen and heard more about Dead Cells and the DLC. Didn't necessarily give a shit about Fashion Dreamer. Certainly didn't care about the Tron game.
Yeah, I really wish this was a game, not a narrative game. Like, it's cool, fine. It's just not my kind of thing. But I love the aesthetic of Tron. I love the sort of the sound of Tron, the way it looks, all that sort of stuff, and the sort of the world. I just wish it was more, let me ride around on bikes and do the things that Tron's famous for, which is, all of the sort of cool geometry, riding on things are moving, whatever, the light bikes, all that sort of stuff. It just seems like for me, a bit of a dud for it to just be a puzzle narrative game. But hey ho, there are people that like those kind of games, so fine.
Yeah, I mean, I like those kinds of games. I don't know how interested I am in like that for Tron, as somebody who like doesn't really have any attachment to that IP. It is, I think, interesting because this is a Mike Bithell joint, so he's like Thomas Was Alone volume, he's like one of those kind of like from that first kind of era of up and coming like indie auteurs, he's like got some cred from that space. So I don't know, maybe it'll surprise people, but
yeah, I mean, and cool that someone like an indie dev's partnering with Disney and one of their IPs and able to make a game and something, I guess, unusual or like outside of the norm of what you would expect from like a Disney game.
Yeah, or from a Tron game, right? In general, right? You wouldn't like Max said, you'd expect it to be more of like an action thing, a racer thing, whatever. But I don't know. We'll see, right? I think that's one that like I'm happy to give a shot if the buzz is there, right? If the script is good. But yeah, definitely not something that I'm like clamoring for, right? Of like, yes, like this is what I needed was like a narrative choose your own adventure Tron game, right? It's certainly not I think the first thing people would ask for that IP. So, but I think there's probably a vision there if they move forward with it. So hopefully it comes together. So then we got to look at Ghost Trick Phantom Detective, which is coming this summer. This one I thought like it seemed like an interesting enough gimmick in terms of like using time travel to like solve puzzles and kind of like it's like almost reminiscent of like Life is Strange in that way, but obviously being like less narrative based and more like a puzzle on a map thing, right, and like clear each individual thing. How do we get through this space without dying or getting this other character killed or what have you?
Was this in the original DS Ghost Trick Phantom Detective? I feel
I
like it was.
believe it was. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I can see that there are elements of it that would have been good on the touchscreen, and I wonder how they're going to move those over. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I sneezed.
Bless you.
Thank you. Uh, but yeah, it doesn't do a ton for me. I think a lot of these sort of like games that were quite niche back in the day that are coming back, only the ones I've played I'm excited about for obvious reasons. So yeah, this one doesn't grab me.
Yeah, not one I'd go out of my way for. Then next up, we gotta look at Deca Police. This is from a game from Level 5, and it's supposed to come out in 2023. Gameplay wise, there was things about this that looked interesting to me, but I was so distracted by the art style. Like their faces make me really uncomfortable. They're so scrunchy and their little red noses, and I'm just like, I don't know about this. Like I felt like so distracted by this art style that I like struggled to like really connect with the content.
I mean, Level 5, back doing things is pretty good. I can't remember what's the last game Level 5 did.
I feel like didn't they just do
Been doing late games on mobile for a while, I guess.
There's been a lot of mobile stuff, yeah. I don't even. Some of it doesn't even seem like it's been in the UK. Oh, sorry, in the West, to be honest. And now they've got two in one direct. Yeah, Ni no Kuni 2, and then a lot of online Japanese stuff. Yeah, that's the first thing that's come out from them since 2017, from the looks of it. Oh, actually, no, Snack World came out in 2018 on the Switch. Snack World, the Dungeon Treasures, or whatever it used to be called.
So I know
yeah.
you're a Level 5 fan. You were a Ni no Kuni guy, Max. Does this do anything for you?
Nah, it reminded me too much of like Persona, and like I don't like I didn't like the look of the combat, and I could kind of see like elements of things that I might like in there, but I think overall, I think it's a kind of game that I just know wouldn't grab me. Which is, this is one of the parts of the direct where I was like, okay, all right, what's next? Let's keep going. Come on.
And that's the thing, like, I think with that one, like, it certainly doesn't speak to me, but I also don't, I think it looks like a competent game, I think, like, for people who are into that type of experience, like, I'm sure there are a lot of people that one was one that caught their eye,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this kind of whole section was definitely a little hit or miss for me. I think it started to pick up again next when we got to look at Bayonetta Origins. This one's coming out in March 17th. I think this looks pretty good. Like I'm not really interested in the Bayonetta IP broadly. So I don't know how much I'm gonna like prioritize it necessarily, but I think its art style is really appealing, and the way that they talked about the combat, I think communicated what is unique about it in a way that I thought was interesting. It kind of reminded me of that Joseph Fares joint from a couple years ago, Two Brothers, right? Where it's like you're like you control the two characters in tandem, and it's kind of like the obviously you can understand how that would work traversal wise, but in the combat, like the ability where only the demon can attack, and only Cereza can only like do support stuff. So the idea that you're kind of like navigating that situation of like let's move her out of the way so she's not getting damaged, pull aggro with this character, give a stun, give a buff, things like that. I can definitely see that combat being satisfying and interesting.
I remember you guys talking about Two Brothers or Brothers Two Souls, whatever it was called. I feel like I remember.
Yeah, we spoke about Brothers many years ago back on
I remember
the podcast over at Loot Pots, because it was one of Pixel's favorite games, and he made us play it when it came out.
That was it. It was the same episode you guys were talking about Cube 2, if I remember rightly.
Cube 2 was great. Yeah, I remember playing that on Twitch with him as well.
Yeah.
This game did nothing for me. I cannot stand Bayonetta, and I also really just do not like this art style. So I was.
Oh, really? I think it looks so good.
Very much put off on this game. It just looks noisy. It looks messy. I don't like the chibi look for Bayonetta. I just do not. Everything about this game to me, I'm just like, ugh, no, not into it.
Bayonetta is an odd IP. Sorry, I think I'm talking over to you because my internet's dropping out.
But, no, you're good.
It's an odd IP to choose for this Bayonetta. I think like this is the kind of thing that back in the day I wanted them to do with Metroid, like do like a younger Samus and have her vulnerable as like the opposite. But I feel like Bayonetta because she isn't vulnerable. You know, Samus without her suit is vulnerable. Bayonetta without her suit is still a witch that can summon like demon fist and stuff. So it'd be interesting to see where it takes the story. But I feel like I don't know if I need to play Bayonetta 3 before jumping into this, or if they're completely standalone. But fair play to Platinum for just popping out 2 Bayonetta games in the space of 6 months. You know,
That's also so wild to me. Like the fact that this game is like happening so quickly. It's like, why not hold it for like the back half of the year? Or I don't know. It's weird. It is a weird choice. I think broadly. But I don't know.
I can kind of see why though, right? It's like that mid game, you know. Maybe if you've not got the DLC ready for Bayonetta, it keeps that IP fresh in people's brains, you know.
But 6 months later,
you get it out.
You know, like it just came out.
I mean, Pokemon had success with that, so why not?
yeah,
why not try and
Pokemon's not
replicate with
Bayonetta,
Bayonetta?
Pokemon's a 20 million seller, not like
Yeah,
a
but
1 million
Bayonetta
seller,
3,
you know.
Bayonetta 3 sold more than like the first 2 games combined. I would
They
imagine.
didn't know that when they were making
And
it.
so-
Well, it sold 1 million so far. And I'm pretty sure Bayonetta.
So
only
like,
really
why
sells
would
1 million.
why would you not want to capitalize on that and do potentially a
didn't
game
know
that
that at
appeals
the
to more
time, did they?
people?
They didn't know that at the time.
I mean, like I get what you're saying. I still think it's like it's a thing that in my mind I would try to space out a little bit more. You know, like I think it's weird that there's a Kirby game like immediately, right? Like we just had Forgotten
Yeah.
Lands. Like and not that
That
I'm
was
not.
almost a year ago.
Yeah, sure, but it's like, do you need that 2 years in a row? Like,
Yeah.
not that
Well,
I'm
and then we
complaining.
also had that Kirby buffet game as well,
Oh,
like
yeah.
in
Yeah, Dream
between. So
Buffet.
it was like just keep getting Kirby games.
And it's like I like Kirby games, so like I'm not upset about it, but like it does feel strange, I think, to have had such a big period last year where there were droughts, and then it's like there's all these games happening now. It makes me wonder if there isn't hardware news coming sooner than we think, right? If they are so eager to get these games out.
I don't think there's hardware news coming this year, as I said, but it definitely feels like the end of a generation. It feels like we're winding down. It's all DLC.
Yeah.
It's all smaller games. It's it makes sense. Like we spoke about on last week's show with E3. You watch this direct, it just makes sense why they pulled out. Right? There's one big. I mean, there's one big game coming after E3, which is Pikmin 4.
Yeah.
And that's it, really.
Yeah.
And that's not enough to show off at a show.
No, and it's like that's the thing, right? It's like all the big stuff they have, like they adequately showed it here. You know, like
Yeah.
I think the 3 big things in this, right? Like in terms of big first party stuff is, I guess it's like closer to 4 or 5, but Nintendo has tiers, right? But like Zelda obviously A tier, Pikmin I would say is A tier, and like Advance Wars is like A tier, and then we've got Bayonetta and Kirby that are like probably more borderline B tier, whatever. So yeah, it's like they really do have a lot to show, and a lot to talk about this year. But like I feel like we got so much of it out of the way now that I wouldn't be surprised if they're quiet for quite some time from here on out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the next thing is probably a deep dive on Zelda, but we can talk about that later in the episode.
Yeah. So we got a update on Splatoon 3's DLC plans. There's going to be a paid DLC, which will have 2 waves of content. The first brings back Inkopolis as like a hub world. They didn't really get into like what that does specifically too much.
I know, it just seems
like another lobby.
so pointless.
It just seems like another lobby with
different shops, with different characters.
But it's the same stuff you buy. It's not like you go back and you can buy all the old gear from the old games. It's the same gear from the other shops. They just say you can choose where you want to buy your stuff. You can choose where you want to enter the lobby. Choose where you want your Splatfest to be. It just seems odd, and like they've clearly wanted to just do. They clearly wanted to do a season, an expansion pass. They could only come up with this second half of it. And this half just doesn't justify it at all for me. It's just odd that
no, me neither. Like $22.49 for this. I genuinely feel like it's insulting to charge for something like this. It feels like it should be a free update. And considering the updates to Splatoon 3 themselves have been pretty lackluster and shortcoming, like I don't feel like we've had enough stuff coming that was free that justified me spending another 50 quid on another Splatoon game to then charge half that price again to get me to get Inkopolis. Like the Wave 2 stuff looked cool, like the tease they gave, but we don't know anything about that either.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, right? Is like, did that look cool? Like, I don't know, it was interesting, but we have no idea what it is. Like, I can infer that it's a piece of single player content, right? And it's like a different environment than we're used to. Like, those things are interesting, I guess. But like, I mean, I know, Chewy and you, Steve, said that the single player of Splatoon 3 was really good, but like, is that really like, I don't know, how much do people care?
That's really where I spent all my time, was the single player in Splatoon 3, because I was Splatooned out from Splatoon 2. There wasn't much of a drive as I thought there would be with that game at launch. People just didn't seem to attach to it as much as they did with Splatoon 2. So much so that, many people had played it. Like, it wasn't even just like, oh, we're going to quote the millions of people or thousands. Like, even the presentation, they didn't attach a number to it.
Yeah, I
And I
mean,
feel like they probably would have if it was a high figure.
and
Sorry, tell me again, what was that for, sorry?
like with the player
Splatoon
base,
3.
they usually brag about like how many people have played and how many miles people have splatted and all that stuff, and like there wasn't a lot of conversation around that.
They
And
talked about the
Steve's
sales, right? Like at the start of this week.
Yeah, I mean, they spoke about it in the investor relations stuff,
Yeah.
but not in this presentation. Like, I kind of would have expected them to be like, millions of people have come and splatted X amount and done this, that, and the other, and joined in at all these Splatfest. But it was just like we glossed over that straight to the paid DLC, and it feels like they're trying to keep something alive with paid DLC, and I just don't know how successful this is gonna be for them. Like, the Inkopolis stuff is cool if you have nostalgia for Splatoon 1, but if you don't, like I don't, because I never played that game, it's just another place to go and look around. And I don't know about you two, but I don't really spend much of my time walking around that area. One,
No.
it's locked to 30 frames per second, and it feels crap when you go out into it. And I can just flip through the shops with the left and right bumper and like quickly get in and out with the menus. Why would I go and walk around that area? It's cool in concept, but in actual principle, it's just another unnecessary thing that we don't really need.
Yeah, I
Some
mean,
people are.
to be transparent, like this did zero for me, and like I agree with you that I think this feels like a lot to ask for what they're offering. And I think I was definitely the harshest of any of us on Splatoon 3, where I just don't like. I'm of the opinion that I'm done with Splatoon. Like, I think I'm not, like, whenever, unless Splatoon 4 is a very, very modern looking, live service style game with like a clear roadmap. It's just like, I've been burned every time I've tried to invest in it, because I think it's just like an antiquated way to think about supporting a multiplayer game. I don't think that people want to buy full price prestige multiplayer games and then have no content come out for them, whereas like all of the free to play games that that we got into last year, right? Like one of the most popular games on our game of the year list was Marvel Snap. And that's a game that Max and I have put a ton of time into, right? And whether you've spent, I think I've spent maybe $30 on it now across the 3 or 4 seasons or whatever that I've been a part of. But I think I would have had just as much fun if I hadn't invested any money, because the core gameplay is fun and there's constantly new cards and new spaces, and like there's always a reason to come back and try something new and tweak your deck and whatever, right? And it's like, I very quickly felt like, okay, like, what is there for me here in Splatoon 3, right? Aside from just playing for the fun of the game, which is great, but it's not that different than Splatoon 2. And like Steve said, right? Like, at least everybody in our community moved on from it very quickly. It went from like the first weekend it was out, everybody was jumping in my games and I was jumping in theirs, and it was fun. And then it was like, I couldn't find anybody to play with within like a week or two. And it's like, all right, I think I'm just kind of done with this.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't last much longer than that personally. I traded it in recently as well, so
It's honestly, it's the most I've ever regretted buying a Nintendo Switch game. I wish I had bought it physically.
Yeah, I think I'm the same.
Because it was a waste
like,
of money.
Even Pokemon Arceus, like, I felt like I got more mileage out of that, and I don't even really like Pokemon games, and it's a real shame. Before we move on to the next one, I want to loop back to Fashion Dreamer for a quick hot second.
Okay, what?
Because we've got some breaking news. It's developed by Sin Sophia, which are the developers behind Style Savvy. And so essentially this is a
Oh, it's the
spiritual
spiritual
successor to
successor.
Style Savvy because they've
Wow.
switched publishers, yeah.
Wow.
Interesting.
That's
Called it.
crazy.
Called it.
I mean, cool, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. That game did not look good. That's all I got for him. But
Did Disney Illusion Island look good though? The side-scrolling platformer featuring Mickey and Minnie Mouse.
great
I
segue.
thought it
Um,
started like it looked interesting, and then as soon as they showed more of it, I was like, "All right, cool." Because like I remember being younger, and the Mickey Mouse games that were coming out at the time
yeah,
were sort of more interesting. Well, to me, more interesting, maybe more at the time because I was younger. But this has too much of like a. It's gonna sound silly. The aesthetics too childish for me. Whereas I feel like some of the other ones, like I can't remember what it was called. There's one on the PlayStation One which I feel like was more darker, was darker, and it had sort of more of a spooky thing going on. And Epic Mickey was sort of had an interesting idea to it. And this very much just seems like a kids platformer. Fine, that's great. There's an audience for it, just not for me.
I I just I'm disappointed because like I think visually it actually looks really good. Like I think the character models are solid. I think like the art style in general is like clean. But I just don't think the gameplay looks very fun. It looks like very very floaty.
Mm.
It's one of those kind of like it's like it looks like it has like heavier Super Meat Boy physics. You know, where it's
Yeah, I
that
was
kind of like
thinking.
wall slide and leap and everything, and it's like
Yeah, sort of you want to keep moving, there were points of it where it's like Super Meat Boy Forever, where it looks like you are running left, hopping, running right, flipping. Like there's no stopping. I think there is stopping because you can, help characters and stuff like that.
sure,
But it does
sure.
very much feel like
But
you are
yeah,
constantly moving.
I didn't like the look of it in terms of like what it looked like it would feel to play. And, it could be one of those things where like maybe you get on the sticks and, it feels better than it looks, but
I think it probably will. So it's from a developer called Delala Studios who developed the reboot of Battletoads for Xbox.
oh, okay.
So I kind of feel like they've got some experience here with like the 2D physics and stuff. So I think it probably will feel better than it looks in video. And I like the fact that it's a 4-player co-op game. They always feel right at home on the Switch. It's where I always want to play co-op games anyway because it's just easy to dish everyone out of Joy-Con.
For sure.
Especially if you don't like someone, give them the one that drifts. Then but it's not one I'm instantly going to pick up. I'm not a big like Disney fan. It's not like a day one pickup kind of thing. But if I'm looking for something new to play with friends, then maybe.
Yeah, I think this is one where like if the buzz is good, then I might consider it. But yeah, it definitely seems like it's I think aimed at a generally a younger audience. So then we got an update on the Fire Emblem Engage expansion pass. They revealed what 3 and 4 are going to be. So for 3, it's just it's more characters, right? Great. It's more of the emblems, and then for 4, it's like a new serious story expansion. And they kind of teased that a little bit. I am so torn with this because I really am loving Fire Emblem Engage. But the expansion feels like it's kind of pricey. I wish I knew like how long the story bit was, but it's also like I feel like I'm probably in a similar boat with like what Max brought up with Xenoblade, where it's like, am I going to want to dust this game off for this extra content later on? Is it going to come quickly enough? And it doesn't seem like it will. So as much as like I'm glad to see this because I am enjoying the game quite a bit, I don't know if I'm going to stick around for it.
Does anyone really care about the characters either? Like everything I've heard about this is like they've just described them as like horrible characters that really have no personality, and that's not the focus of the game. So like,
No,
why would I care about these characters?
You don't really
joining?
understand like what it's talking about. The emblems are like they're like items, like it's you get
Oh, okay.
They're like power-ups for the characters, not like
Okay.
the actual main cast of characters.
I thought it was going to be like extra characters like in Three Houses where you can actually speak to them and stuff.
Yeah, well, you can talk to them, but like
maybe
they don't really like it's like the way it works is there's like the actual main cast of characters like in every Fire Emblem game, and then the emblem characters are like the characters from old Fire Emblem games, and they're like they're basically an item that you can put on your units, and then they get like it's like a special like form that they can use for like 3 turns, and you get like all these like cool, you know, extra like boosted abilities based on which emblem you're using. So like they would definitely give you a big competitive advantage in terms of, you know, like unlocking new play styles, and like there's a new mission associated with everyone and stuff like that. So it is adding a decent amount of content. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely not like something you need to buy either, you know? But
No,
it's
that's fair
definitely
enough,
not
yeah.
like a story-based thing as much as it is like you know, a tactical
Whereas
advantage.
Wave 4 seems like it probably is a story-based thing. With
Yeah,
the,
that's
what
like
was it
a
called?
new narrative beat.
Yeah. It was like the Falzino something. The Falzino log.
Yes.
And I was just like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Every time I see Xeno spelled like that, I think it's, you know, the wrong game they're talking about. But
Yeah, so, you know, I think my PSA is go play Fire Emblem Engage. It's good.
if I'm picking one, though, 3 houses, right? If I'm going to go back to
Yeah.
one, it should be 3 houses,
Yeah.
not Engage. Yeah.
Oh, but I also, I guess I could see the argument, like, if you don't like social sims at all and you don't want to do, like, the being a teacher and chatting with people and all that stuff, and, like, you just like the tactical battles, then, like, Engage is a little more straightforward in that way. So, you know, it's, I think, gameplay-wise, I think it's probably a little bit, I think the skirmishes are in some cases better than some of the stuff in Three Houses. I know not everybody like loved all the changes they made to the formula at that time, so I think like if you're a fan of the old school stuff, this might speak to you a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I think Three Houses is the better game of the two, personally. But I'm also a new fan, so grain of salt. I was very excited looking at this next one. Harmony Fall of Reverie is the new game from Don't Nod, who is the studio that created Life is Strange. They were also the team behind Tell Me Why, which Steve and I talked about on the podcast back in the day. I don't even remember if it was on this show or the old show or what, but
It was on flip screen because I played it on
on the Series X, right? Okay, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, they are known for their story-driven adventure, you know, choose your own adventure type games. Stylistically, this one's a little bit different, rather than being like, you know, a 3D like, you know, walk around,
Looked
explore an
Hades
environment
inspired
thing.
for me. Like,
Yeah.
the characters that kind of came in, I was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it has more of that
The
like almost like
gods.
visual novel kind of style, you know. Coming out in June. Lena Raine, who is the composer, you know, she's known for Celeste but like I mean dozens of other really, really great soundtracks.
Chicory soundtrack's pretty good.
What's that?
Wonder Song.
Oh,
She did
yeah,
the music
yeah.
for Chicory and Wonder Song.
Sure. Yeah, I mean Lena's like one of the premier composers, I feel like, right now, and especially in like the indie space. So yeah, I mean, to me, like all of those things, right? Like, yeah, that's a Venn diagram I've gotta give a shot at least. It seems interesting because it's like a very like strange kind of concept where there's these like aspirations. There's 6 different aspirations that you can like side with, and that impacts the story. So you can like focus on like wrath, or like, you know, strengthening your bonds with others, or chaos, or whatever, right? And it's like all of those things influence how the story plays out. So like obviously you'd be kind of incentivized to like play again and make different choices, and you know, see how stuff plays out. Those are all things that definitely appeal to me. So yeah, this is one I'll definitely be giving a shot when it rolls around in June.
Yeah, as soon as I saw Don't Nod's name come up, I was like, yeah, this is one for Pete.
Must buy. Yeah, you gotta support the studios that you like. So then we had a very interesting. I thought it was so silly that they were like, all right, this section's about games that are gonna make you roll, and it was like, here's some role playing games, and then also we love Katamari.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
Yeah, first when I said that, I was like, What a weird way to, because they have these weird phrases where it's like swings onto or grabs onto the Switch or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, what a weird one to do. And then when it came with Katamari, I was like, oh, I get it now. All right, fine.
Yeah, I couldn't have given a shit about Octopath Traveler 2, which is out February 24th, and we've known about for a million years. But
And there's a demo available
I
today
did give
that you could jump into if you want to do that.
I did care very, very much about We Love Katamari, and
Me too.
very, very excited that we are getting another Katamari reroll game, because Katamari Damacy reroll was one of my favorite re-releases on Switch. I cannot wait for another one. I never played these games before. I know a lot of them never even released in the UK. So it's nice that people are able to play them for the first time. But yeah, Katamari Damacy reroll was great. I think I had some concerns, like there was some drops in frame rate. I don't know if that was just like I don't know if it was just the stream, if it was just like the
What stream were you watching?
gameplay footage. UK.
I was in the US and it was on there as well. So
Yeah. So I don't know if it's just like the footage that they had. But yeah, I was disappointed to see some frame rate drops from a re-release game, but I'm sure they'll fix it out in time, because they've got like 4 months until release in June.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine this will be a digital only release again, so it should be okay.
Yeah, I'm not super concerned about it. I think they'll figure it out. Like the first one ran really well, you know.
Yeah, and like these games should run pretty well.
Yeah, they're PS2 games.
Yeah, and Katamari Damacy reroll is also on like a game trial, which I think was this weekend, maybe next weekend. Yeah, up until February 26th. So if you've not played Katamari Damacy reroll and you've got a Nintendo Switch Online, then now's the time to go and try it.
I was
before this game's
so
released.
bummed that this one wasn't a shadow drop. I was like, oh, today? June.
Yeah,
okay.
I'd have bought this straight away if it was a shadow drop, because I love Katamari.
I'd be playing it right while we were recording right now.
Yeah, the most unusual controls, but once you get the hang of them, they're so satisfying. Like the twin sticks to turn and like pull them back to spin up the ball. It's like, yeah, it's great. It's such a great game.
It's such a perfect game. Like, and it's like it's fun to play on its own. It's like a good TV game too, if you just want to like be playing something that's like fun and arcadey and engaging, but isn't like violent, isn't action focused. You have to worry about combat. It's like you have a bad run. It's like whatever. It's just pleasing, and the style and the music, and yeah, Katamari is something really special. It really is. Can't wait. So we gotta look at another RPG called Sea of Stars. It's got like a real like old school kind of style. Nice pixel art, nice animation. Turn-based RPG kind of vibe. Coming out August 29th. There's a free demo for this one as well, which you can check out.
This is from the Messenger guys, or Messenger developers, I should say. And the sort of the 16-bit side of the Messenger had great pixel art, so I can see where that's sort of come into play.
It's pretty. It's a really nice looking game.
They snapped up a bunch of awards back in 2018, including like best debut indie. So I imagine that people are pretty eyes on this one. I thought this was absolutely gorgeous when I saw it, and I was like, you know what, if this like reviews well, I think it's probably going to be one that I want to pick up for the summer, because it just looks absolutely stunning.
Very nice. So then we looked at Omega Strikers coming out in April. This is like it's very interesting. It's like a hero-based like air hockey game. It's like it.
I like.
What was that Ubisoft game that was like coming as exclusive to Switch? Do you remember that? It was like something Knockout or whatever. What was that called?
What one with the one with the ball? The
Knockout City.
Yeah.
Knockout. Well, it got shut down this week, didn't it? Knockout City.
It's closing down later this year. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They're doing something cool though, where they are going to keep. You can still play it privately. Like the live servers won't be up anymore, but you can still play it with other people, which is pretty.
Thinking of the roller skating game.
Maybe it wasn't that then. No, it was something else. Like there was that Ubisoft were doing what? Maybe it wasn't Ubisoft. Maybe I'm losing my mind. But someone please tell me in the comments. There was something that was like that reminded me of this, but yeah, there's no point me googling while we're recording. Someone will know, I'm sure.
We got a lot of other games to talk about.
Yeah.
This I actually thought this looks fun, but I think it was a game that will struggle to find an audience.
This will be fun for a couple of hours, and then I'm like with friends, and then we'll never touch. We're not going to get together and go, let's play a Mega Strikers. Like, I just can't see
Right.
it happening.
I think you're probably right about that, which is unfortunate. But
Yeah.
um,
You get like 4 people in a room together playing this game for 2 hours. They're going to work out the exact goal. They're going to break the game within moments. Okay, I'll just play this. I'll play this. And then we'll just win every time.
So then we got another, I believe this was also a DS game originally. The Etrian Odyssey Origins collection is dropping. They did say that you could also get them individually. 1, 2, and 3 will all be like available as individual downloads on the eShop. Sporting some new art. It's like a very one of those, procedural, like kind of dungeon crawly. You're building out the route as you go, and you're getting into like one-on-one turn-based battles, and yeah, it's I've heard about these games quite a bit, but I've never played them for myself. It doesn't necessarily seem like something that's like super up my alley, but I mean, obviously there's some fanfare around it if they went through the trouble of, remastering this entire collection.
Yeah, I mean it's a game from Atlas, so it's always going to have some like following. I would imagine Zaid's probably screaming at us to play it right now as he's listening to this.
Yeah, I'm anticipating a DMs telling us we should be playing it. But yeah, June 1st, Atlas. So the pedigree's there. So I'm sure that this is one that we're ignorant to, and that there are people who are like very psyched about this. The thing I'm very psyched about, though, was our next announcement: Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp coming April 21st. Pre-orders are available today. Very excited about that. Little disappointed because there was a rumor that it was potentially going to be like getting released in the next couple days, rather than kind of having to wait a couple months. But honestly, that's probably for the best. As much as I would like to play it right now, I'm still playing Fire Emblem, so I probably don't need to juggle two
probably
tactical
why.
RPGs.
I think Fire Emblem's probably the reason why. But 1 whole year after its original release, like expected release,
Yeah,
it's finally coming out. It's pretty crazy.
really exciting though. Very, very, very happy to finally be able to get hands on this one.
Yeah.
So then we got an update on Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, which I thought was interesting because it wasn't what I expected. I thought they were going to talk more about the actual game. Of course, it is a remake of a Wii game, but they're doing the very Switch thing of like, all right, we brought this game back and it's a remaster, and also there's a new game in here somewhere, and it's like, all right, like it's interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't seem very interesting to me, like that much.
Yeah, it's like the Bowser's Fury treatment, right? Where he's
Yeah.
tacked on something else in here, but you've got to play the entire original game and complete the story mode to get this new
Because it's like an epilogue.
Magalore's epilogue.
Yeah, it's like it happens after the events of the original game, I guess. But so yeah, you're playing as Magalore, who's one of the main characters in the game proper. And like it's like a very like RPG type of progression where like he starts with like only a simple attack and a jump, and then like as you're going and completing levels, you can like level up his abilities and get all these different, like you can have him hover longer, you can have him at bigger attacks, and like your whole play style is dictated by how you upgrade him as you go. And there'll be like 20 stages that you can play through, so pretty sizable amount of new content. Yeah, it's interesting. It feels weird, but I don't know. Like maybe it'll make more sense after you've played through the game proper. Because I know I never played the original Return to Dreamland on the Wii, so either way, I'm looking forward to this one. So I know it was a really, really warmly received at the time. I know a lot of people look back on this game really fondly.
Yeah, and it was nice it's nice to see. I don't know if after playing the last Kirby game, if I can go back to like a 2D side-scrolling style Kirby game. But maybe, I don't know. I don't think it's for me. Still haven't finished the last one.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna pick this one up for sure. What about you, Max?
Kirby, I like the 2D Kirby's. I used to like some of the 2D Kirby games that came out, but I feel like no, it's not really worth the price of entry for me to play this because I could just play the Wii one,
Yeah, you got a Wii sitting around?
No, I've got a Steam Deck that can play Wii games, so I'll just do it on that.
All right. So then the next big announcement, we got the reveal that both Game Boy and Game Boy Advance are coming to Nintendo Switch Online. Game Boy Advance, of course, part of the expansion pack. So you'll need to be an expansion pack holder to get those games.
Absolute bullshit.
I agree with that. I'm not gonna. Why would I give them that much money for them when I could? Like, if there are some games that I would give them the standard online thing. I'm not paying £50 a year to play games that I can play elsewhere. It
And the
seems.
emulation didn't even look like it was correct. Like Minish Cap looked so desaturated in the footage. I just don't understand.
You think so? I didn't think
Yeah,
it looked desaturated.
compared to having played it on like the other emulators.
Sure. I think it's kind of funny that you're surprised by that, frankly. Like, I like if you had.
No, yeah, even GoldenEye had issues, right? And it just came out. I'm like, but yeah, it's disappointing that they kept it's like, here's the Game Boy games. It's like all coming, but like the ones you want to play are probably over on the GBA. You got to pay us extra for, but.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
it's
don't.
just-
I think that's a reach. I think you have a bias towards newer games. I think there's a
Yeah,
lot
I
of people
absolutely
that.
do. I have a bias towards the GBA games, but the GBA games I want to play aren't here. I know Metroid Fusion's coming. It was in like the screenshot, but I want Wario Land 4. Like Wario Land 3 is cool, but I want Wario Land 4.
I think that was the thing that I was the most struck by was just the lineup is not great. The games are bad, but like there's just a lot missing. On the Game Boy side of things, there's
No
Tetris,
Pokemon.
Mario Land 2, Link's Awakening DX, Gargoyles Quest, Game & Watch Gallery 3, Alone in the Dark, Metroid 2, Wario Land 3, Kirby's Dream Land, and then on GBA we got Super Mario Advance 4, which is Mario 3. WarioWare Inc., Kuro Kuro Kurin, Mario Kart Super Circuit, Mario plus Luigi, Minish Cap, and then again more coming. Those are good games. Like those are a lot of the games you'd want. But like Max said, right? Like there's no Pokemon, right? Like not one. Like really?
They're bringing in Pokemon trading card game to the
Right.
Game Boy or
Yeah,
the Game Boy
right. Like,
Advance.
yeah,
One of
do
the
we want
two,
that though? Like,
but
we want to play Red and Blue again, or we want to
yeah.
play
And
like
again,
Yellow
no,
and
like
Gold.
this is where I take issue, Steve. Yes, we do want that, but we also want red and blue. We also want gold and silver. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like, the don't put shade on the Pokemon trading card game, because that game's fun. It's a great game, but it's
Yeah,
also not.
fair enough, but it's not the ones that everyone's like screaming for, is
No.
it? It's
No.
yeah.
And like Nintendo, like should be able to put those out, right? Like it's like they were available for sale on the 3DS. Like there's no reason to not have those games here. And like
Yeah.
especially when like we have Pokemon Stadium on the N60. Like how cool would it be if you could have them interact and pull your save in and do all the stuff that you're supposed to be able to do in Pokemon Stadium that you can,
Or to wirelessly trade and play. It's like being able to play Red and Blue in a way that allows you to wirelessly trade and battle again, like you could in the old days. Complete the Pokedex without having to do any dodgy stuff. You can just literally, you and your friends can swap and trade them online as well. You don't have to be in person anymore. Like that kind of stuff that the Nintendo expansion or Nintendo Online stuff does. Those things would be great for the most popular sort of franchise, or one of the most popular franchises. So yeah, seems like a missed opportunity. Maybe it's coming later. Maybe they're waiting till September when those
Yeah,
subscriptions are about to start coming back in,
you're
and they know
probably
people are going to
right.
start dropping off.
But I still think that sucks, right? Because you could have had red, blue, yellow, or just red and blue, like phase one, and then when you want to bring people back in, just put out, gold, silver, crystal, right? Like
Yeah,
you had cards that
but,
you could still play.
but maybe you just do a big Pokemon drop in September for all of them, and then you get people
Maybe.
that are only subscribing to Pokemon, that are only subscribing to the basic one back. You also get people that have got to rebuy an expansion back in. Also, just to point out, I just realised I don't think any of the stuff other than Mario Kart has been included in this expansion pass. None of these expansion passes for Xenoblade, Fire Emblem,
You are
Splatoon
correct,
are
yeah.
included,
Yeah.
which to me seems like the point of the expansion pass was that you paid that and you got these things. I feel like we haven't had one of those since the Mario Kart one, have we? Where it's just
No,
included in
we had the Animal Crossing one, and then we had the Mario Kart one. They also
Is that it?
stuck in the Splatoon 2 one
Yeah,
after the fact further down the line.
I
But yeah, you're
remember.
right. Like even some of the older ones, like it would be cool to just put Smash in there at this point. Like
Yeah,
give everyone the fighter passes. It's like you're
yeah.
not going to release anything fresh for that at this point. If people were interested, they've already bought them.
All
Just
of
give
those
it to everyone.
DLCs, all of those DLCs are full price as well. I don't think it ever go on sale, these expansion passes.
Yeah, and like I think it's frustrating because I think it's like the fact that there's no rhyme or reason to any of these things is why I think so many people have a negative viewpoint of the service, right? Where it's like I really don't think that the value is bad for what you're spending, but it's also like it's random, right? Like it's like games come seemingly at random, games are missing seemingly at random, and
Yeah,
you
and like
know,
you know, with some of the other platforms as well, right? We know that once a month we're going to get new games added to the platform. We know, and they're like announced at like a reasonable time slot. I know what games are coming and going to Xbox Game Pass all the time. It's easily announced ahead of time. I can keep track of it on Twitter if I want. I've got no clue when Fire Emblem's coming to the Nintendo Switch Online, so I can play it on the Game Boy Advance emulator and experience the first Fire
you
Emblem
just know
game.
it's coming.
I don't know when that's going
It's
to
just
happen. I
gonna
just
come,
know it's coming at some
right?
point in the future. Like, and that sucks. I want to be able to like have something to look forward to and be excited about. Give us some new games every single month, like you used to back with the NES stuff, and maybe with the Game Boy stuff because the library's so expansive, they can start doing that again.
Yeah.
But
But
it's
even
just it's
so,
yeah.
it's like I want them to communicate that, right? And again, I think like the expansion pack being like like if the narrative was cleanly you get this and you get access to every piece of DLC that we release, then it's like okay, cool, like that has a value and tell me what it costs and I'll pay for it, right? But it being like, oh, like some of them will come, and it's
Yeah.
like,
I mean, but there's no rhyme or reason, like you said, no rhyme or reason to what is coming and what isn't coming.
right,
It's
like
just
Animal Crossing came out day and date, right? That was just available at launch. Why is that? Like you'd think if anything, it would be the inverse, right? Where like Animal Crossing would be one you'd have to pay for because it was such a popular game, and that like for like
Mhm.
Fire Emblem, it's like, oh well, I don't know. It feels like they just pick and choose at random, and that it is like, okay, well, these are our most popular games, so they'll be the most attractive, and for our less popular games, we want to make a bigger return on them, so like you can pay for those DLCs, and it's like
Yeah.
that doesn't feel great, Like I want to play the Fire Emblem Engage DLC, but I don't want to pay for it, Like I'm already paying for this system. Like why is it the DLC that I actually want is the stuff I'm missing out on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real shame. And like I feel like we should have had these Game Boy emulators last year as well. Like I would have loved to have played Metroid Fusion on my Switch before I played Metroid Dread. Rather than the only way I could experience that was to emulate it on another device because Nintendo wouldn't sell me Metroid Fusion on the
Mhm.
Nintendo Switch. That's where I wanted to play it, and I didn't get to. Um, which was a real shame. But I'm glad I have finally experienced that game because it was
Speaking
fantastic.
of Metroid games that I'm excited to finally experience, Metroid Prime Remastered is here. Literally
I
today,
have
right now.
been staring at this start screen for the whole time we've been recording, just like desperate to crack in and start playing. I'm really glad that
And it's
it's
your first
here.
time playing as well, isn't it, Max? Yeah, you've never
Yeah,
played
yeah,
a
yeah.
Metroid game
It is
before.
my first time playing it on the Nintendo Switch. You are correct. I said probably on the show that I wasn't going to bother with any Metroid Prime Remaster because I had it on the Steam Deck and it was already perfect on there, and that was sort of the way to play it. But some of the screenshots and clips and stuff from this remaster, I just immediately, as soon as I could buy it, I bought it. And I'll probably buy the physical edition when that comes out. I think it's Feb 22nd in the US and then March 3rd in the EU. I don't know why we get a delay. But still, yeah, I'll probably get the physical one too. It's interesting the level they've gone to for this remaster. I have no idea who's made it, but I know that you have like the new dual stick controls that everyone was hoping for, but you've also got pure motion controls like the Wii game, the Wii
And
version.
you can
You've
toggle the old controls too if you want
Yeah,
to
you can
play
have
it
the
the
old
old way.
controls, or you can have a hybrid, so you can use the sort of the sticks and so you've got all of these different control methods. And I really hope that whoever's done this has worked with Retro Studios to sort of make these one to one, and that when you play Metroid Prime 4, it feels just like Metroid Prime does here on the Switch. So yeah, very excited to dive into this, and I feel like it's a cheaper release as well. £35, $40. So if
Deeply
you're
surprised by that. Deeply
Mm,
surprised by that
mm.
choice.
I'm not because I thought we were meant to be getting the trilogy. I thought that's what the rumor was for. I feel like 5 years at this point that the Metroid
Yeah,
Prime
but
trilogy was
if you
coming.
recall, we heard last year from Jeff Grubb over at GamesBeat that they had changed the plan and that they were doing like a proper remaster of the first game rather than just like a port.
Yeah, and then the other two games will come later, and I assume they'll be cheaper. So maybe when it all balances out,
Yeah,
and
it's
let's say they charge
$120 for the 3 at that point.
No. So what I'm saying is that this remaster is $35, and the other two come out at 15 a pop, right? And then you've paid
I can see that.
65.
It's
I cannot
$40
see
in
that, yeah.
in the States. I thought I saw it at 35 earlier. It looks
No, so it's £35, $40. Sorry, I must have misspoke there.
no, it's just funny because I thought I remembered seeing it for 35 on the site when I looked at it earlier, but it says 40.
Oh, okay.
But either way, I think it's very interesting that they're throwing it out at that price just because like we've seen them charge $60 for other remasters recently, you know?
Yeah. I want to know who made this. I want to know because releasing a game like at that price, right? Is if you're using like the top Nintendo talent or like even just like your standard Nintendo internal studio, their time to have done this, surely that if they can release something like this Kirby game at the sort of remaster of a Wii game, very similar situation, that's going to be a full price release, I assume. But to release this at 35, I don't know. Well, I think we need more information. I'm very excited that it's happened. I just need more information about who's done it. What does it mean for Metroid Prime 4? What does it mean for the next games? But I'm instead of thinking about the next thing like I always do, I'm going to focus on this and play this for a bit. So, yeah.
Well, good. I'm sure we'll learn more about its origins sooner than later. Like maybe even when you boot it up.
I've already booted it up and I've looked through the menus and like it just says Nintendo. Everywhere just says Nintendo.
That's so strange.
No, they do that with everything though. Didn't they do that with Metroid Dread?
No.
Mercury Stream's definitely listed on
Mercury Stream's
Is their logo on there?
Yeah,
it must be. Yeah.
definitely.
And there's even like an extras menu in here which has like the original concept art and then also all the remastered concept art and like the remastered like characters and stuff like that. So there's a lot of effort's gone into this. It's not just like they've taken the old game and done it. They've done like new artwork, new concept art and stuff like that. So who's done that? Oh well, let's find out some other time.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting. I'm excited to play it. I really am. I'm excited to give this one a go as a recently converted Metroid head.
Good boy.
That's right. So we're gonna look at Raincode. This I don't know. I remember the trailer for this, but I gotta tell you, now that I'm trying to think about it, I can't remember what the gameplay looked like. I got it pulled up. I'm watching it.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was.
It's like puzzles and detectives, and there's like this person called Shinigami, which I thought sounded like Shin Megami.
I remember this one. Yeah, because it came directly after Metroid. I just stopped caring at this point.
Yeah, everyone was freaking out.
Max is already like downloading
but you
Metroid,
couldn't.
not paying attention.
Yeah. I was refreshing the eShop.
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta tell you, this one didn't leave much of an impression on me. I don't like. You're solving a mystery. You got powers. I don't know. I was too high on Metroid, I guess. So then next we got another look at Batten Kaitos 1 and 2 Remastered, which Chewy talked about like a while ago. I remember on the Nintendo Noise predictions we've still not been able to have an episode about because we haven't gotten all three of us together. He I think predicted that the third game in this franchise would be released. And instead we got a remaster of 1 and 2.
It's Monolith stuff, right? As far as I know.
Yeah, it is, I believe, and it was a GameCube title originally.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought this looks cool. Like I don't really, not knowing too much about it. Like it definitely looks like an RPG of its time. But the whole like, deck building turn-based RPG thing, but like it's also a real time situation. It seems interesting. Like I think the gameplay is something I could definitely see myself getting into. Okay.
No.
The next game I don't want to even talk about. Fantasy Life I, the girl who steals. I'm done. I don't want to talk about these games
come
anymore.
on, we've got to talk about Aldi Animal Crossing.
No, we really don't.
Now,
I don't think we do.
Excuse me. Did you guys play the original Fantasy Life on the 3DS?
No.
It
Thankfully
was
not,
a
no.
great game. It reminded me of the old DS Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles games, where it was like a sort of top-downy, sort of almost sidey, just like an action RPG, where you roll around beating up enemies and like you collect things for people and you sort of choose. If you wanted to be a cook, you could be a cook and you could do quests involve cooking, or you could be a miner instead. And once you reach like the end of one life, you could then choose another life and go, okay, now I'm going to be a seamstress or whatever. And you go out and you kill enemies to collect like different things. And there's different little quests for different people. I really enjoyed Fantasy Life. Me and a few friends all got it at the same time on the 3DS, and I really enjoyed it. And it was a shame that all the sequels they did were either MMOs or were only in Japan on mobile or something like that. So I'm really excited to see a new full.
So
Fantasy
you're
Life.
jumping into this. This is one.
I think I'm gonna see. I'm gonna see when this comes out how how it reviews, because I really enjoyed the first game like more than I expected to, and I feel like it's not an Animal Crossing game, because it's not a farm sim. It's not a sort of you don't go around making friends or
Maybe
like building
not, but they
houses or
are very
whatever.
much inspired by Animal Crossing. They have to be, from what it looked like.
Maybe.
There was a moment where someone was cutting down a tree, and I'm like, this looks exactly like Animal Crossing.
Yeah, even
it's
like
just,
the tiers of like the island looked like Animal Crossing.
it's very much like it's a just like a fun level 5 sort of action RPG kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, good.
And yeah, I look
I'm
forward to
glad
seeing
that you're
what happens.
stoked that this is coming back. Then that's cool. I think I'm like burnt out on this type of game, and it sounds like maybe that's not really what it is, and it's getting unfairly kind of painted with a broad brush there. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it
I don't
just
know.
reminds me of like DS era Square Enix stuff, which was always fun.
Well, you know what, Max? You tell me if it's worth picking up.
All right. Yes.
Then we got a very, very short little clip teasing a new Professor Layton project.
Yeah, cracking.
Looks great. I mean, like the
Yeah.
art of it is. I thought the scene was very pretty. It's Professor Layton and the New World of Steam. So yeah, another level 5 joint.
Does that mean there's 3? No, wait. Is Fantasy Life not being made by Level 5? Because that would be 3
No,
level
it's
5
not.
games in one. Oh, okay. The first game
No.
was Level 5.
Yeah, they've got Deca Police was their other game.
Okay.
So then the last thing we got before the big bopper here at the end with Tears of the Kingdom is another look at the next batch of Mario Kart 8 DLC. There's a new Yoshi's Island course that looks really great. We're getting some new characters in Birdo, which also there's like a bunch of different like colored skins and everything. So yeah, I think the Mario Kart 8
Birdo
DLC
still
has
terrifies me.
been. That's very funny.
Doc sent me a direct message, and I haven't replied to it because we've been recording. Very excited that the Birdo was in the presentation. So hi Doc. But yeah, I just I think the Mario Kart 8 DLC has been a smash success. It's one of the best reasons to buy the Nintendo Switch expansion pass, and I'm excited to play all of the new stuff.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. So then we got a sizzle reel, looks at a bunch of indie titles, mostly stuff we've seen before. Nothing that I really want to call out. It's all games I feel like we've talked about multiple times already. So I am more than happy to jump into our final piece of news, which was our first significant look at Tears of the Kingdom.
Finally, we saw gameplay.
Yeah, quite a bit of it, actually.
None of it is Zelda, unfortunately, but oh well.
Not yet, right? But I mean, we'll keep that dream alive for you, Max. Because I know you saw the message in our Nintendo Noise group chat. Sierra sent a picture. It's a new promotional picture of Zelda, and she's holding a tablet. So we're gonna keep that dream alive.
It's happening.
But
I know, yeah, but like in the trailer, like it says, give him your power, and it feels like that's the point where the tablet maybe goes from her over to Link. Like I don't think she's gonna be holding that thing for very long.
Maybe, who knows? I don't know.
Because she was pretty dressed for action in the stuff of the first game as well, and all the flashbacks had her with a tablet anyway. It's fine. Whatever.
Here's my thing, Max. Here's my thing. Do you want to hear this is like my crazy theory that supports your theory? Not sure if I actually think it's happening, but there's a line of dialogue in this where she says, I don't know if you can beat him or whatever, right? Like, and she's referencing Ganondorf, and maybe the next part of that line is alone, and then she picks up the weapon, and there we
Oh,
go. We're off to
nice.
the
That's
races. We're off to the
nice.
races, baby.
I
I
think
really,
I think it ain't over till it's over. So let's see.
I speaking of Ganondorf, I really did not like his voiceover at all. I thought it was so
It
cringy.
took
I'm
me a
so
while to
sorry.
work out that it was him because he was saying stuff and I was like, that sounds like a bad guy. And then I was like, oh, it's supposed to be Ganondorf. I was like, that didn't have the Ganondorf vibe that I
No,
was expecting.
no, not at all. Did not sound like him at all. I did not like the choice for Ganondorf.
I'm
Um,
gonna wait
and then
until there's more context, I think.
Max, do you remember this like really old advert? I wanted to talk to you specifically about it, but there's a part in the trailer, and it was like an old advert for Channel 4 where like the Channel 4 logo turned into like a mechanical
Are you
person.
really
And I
talking
thought
about
that
this right now?
enemy looked so cool. I thought that boss
Yeah. I
looked
know
so
I know what
cool.
you mean. I know exactly what you mean. And yes, I can see what you mean. Yeah,
The big
that does
robot
look like
man.
a cool evolution of the golem people from the first game.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we got to look at a lot of new enemy types. There was like some like flying creatures that
Yeah.
we hadn't seen before. The like blood moon looks like it's like kind of like mutating a lot of the familiar enemies that we've seen in the
Yeah.
past. Which
Yeah,
I
we
think
saw
those are like changes I'm excited to see because that was something I was wondering quite a bit. Is like, is this the same map? And if so, how do you evolve it and like bring
Mhm.
new flavor to it? And I mean, obviously, there's all this stuff in the sky as well.
Yeah. And probably gonna need some underground stuff as well. Someone on Twitter called out that the Redeads are back as well, which is a good enemy to bring back.
Yeah, for sure. We saw some new weapon types too, and like some new like of the core abilities, like the tablet abilities. And like Link's weird like metal arm thing that he has is like controlling them now, and like there's like two different vehicles that we saw him like driving like a little car and then like a flying machine
Yeah.
to like get across the different islands and stuff. Like,
I liked the grinding on the rails as well, like just always new methods of traversal, and yeah, it
yeah.
just looks so cool. He seems like I didn't see him use his glider once though. Like, is
No, he
that
uses
gone?
it.
No, he jumps. He jumps off. He jumps off a
He
cliff.
jumps off
So
a
I'm
cliff and
pretty.
pulls it out. Yeah.
Okay. Because I saw him like free falling, and I'm just like, is he ever gonna let us stop free falling?
No. There's a
Yeah,
bit where
it
he
looks
jumps
like the
off, very
free
much like
falling is like limited to the like up in the
Hmm.
sky stuff. But there's a scene where he like runs and jumps off a cliff. And there's like a bunch of like mushroom, like big, giant, tall mushrooms that like are like kind of peering out over the
Okay.
horizon. He pulled out the glider. Yeah, I mean it's crazy. Like it's weird that this game is actually finally happening. Like it feels like we've been waiting for it for so long. And actually getting to see some of the stuff that it has to offer is pretty exciting.
Yeah, I really cannot wait. The 12th of May feels like it's so close at this point. It's like 3 months, and then we get to finally play this game. And I still don't. I mean, I would be happy if I saw no more than this, and that would be enough for me. I do think
I
we
really don't want
probably
them to
are
show
gonna
more.
get. I think we're gonna get a deeper dive into it. I think we are gonna see more. I think as we get closer, I think there probably is gonna be more revealed, but maybe not because they did reveal the collector's edition. However, we haven't seen that leaked limited edition Switch. Whether that comes out or not remains to be seen. It may have been a fake, because I feel like this would be the time to announce it so people can get pre-orders in and start
Unless
getting
there's a
ready for it.
direct, like a focused direct
Yeah,
that's coming. But yeah, I mean, like, there's so much here to unpack too, right? Like, I keep replaying it for the YouTube kids, and another thing that they show is like there's a scene where there's like a bridge with like a 3-headed dragon on it. Like, it looks like there's gonna be some like bigger like monster boss fights and stuff like that. It's very interesting. I feel like there's really a lot to unpack here. But the thing I was most struck by is like I didn't feel like there was something there that was recognizable. So like I'm wondering if it is going to be the same map or if like we're moving beyond Hyrule.
Yeah, the only thing I saw that I would say was recognizable is in that opening trailer where
yeah. When he stood up in the tower, right?
Yeah.
yeah, I was going to say when they're destroying Hyrule Castle, that very much seems like that is the same Hyrule Castle. It's just
Yeah.
whether the rest of that is because there's not like there was a bit behind Hyrule Castle you couldn't access or anything. It was all the whole map was accessible. I wonder if it's just going to be enough things have happened to the world, but you can't sort of it's not the same, or that you travel in time, or there's all sorts of things we still don't know about this game. Which great, let's like save them for the mystery, but But yeah, there's a lot of like new elements that I think look very cool.
Also, I want to touch on this thing. This is something that led to one of Steve's predictions. And again, right, grain of salt, because I think there's just a very simple way to interpret what's happening that isn't this. But there's that scene, right? Like after they show the title card, and then it's like the Ganon tendril comes out, right? And then Link like jumps and like goes to save Zelda or whatever. Could that be Link dying? Who's to say?
Could it be Link taking over Ganondorf, and the voice we hear is actually Link's voice, and that's why it sounds awful?
If Link sounds like that, it's even worse because it doesn't sound anything like the that he would make when he was jumping in Breath of the Wild.
It's so funny to me. Like, you get why he sounds like that, right? Like they show him immediately before, and he's like a rotted corpse. Like that's why his voice sounds like that. I'm pretty sure, but. You love to nitpick about voices. Any British voice, you're like, I don't.
Maybe I'll just play with like the Japanese voice because I didn't much like Zelda's voice in Breath of the Wild either. Yeah, maybe I just don't like British voices in video games. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, I just hate British people.
That's the reality.
That's why I don't like Bayonetta. Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's the thing is, you're like, oh, I hate it. Can't stand that northern accent. But yeah, it's very exciting. It's very exciting to think that within just a few months, like we're finally going to get to play this game and see what it's really all about. I am really fascinated by what it's going to be, because like I think the safe bet is that it is going to be a Game of the Year contender, that it's going to be a follow-up to one of the best games of all time, and yada yada yada. But like, there is that wonder for me of like, could it have a sophomore slump? Like, could people be like, it's more of the same. The Switch is showing its age and it doesn't run that well.
It is more of the same though, because like we've not once seen a shrine. I feel like all of that stuff's gone, and we're moving on to something new and something fresh. Like it's like traverse the skies. There seems to be proper boss battles. It feels like there's probably going to be going back to dungeoneering. I'm really excited to see what it will be. This is a day one purchase for, I think, every Switch owner at this point. At least I know it is for all three of us.
Sure.
And we spoke about it briefly, I think, earlier in the show. But this is the first $70 Switch game,
and that I was about to bring up. We talked about that offline. I don't believe it was when we recorded in the show, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit because I think it's very interesting that they're pulling that trigger now. I fully expected them to wait until the next hardware iteration to raise the price. It's kind of surprising.
The first game was I wouldn't necessarily say this is a hint of what's to come, because the first Breath of the Wild was a £60 Switch game. I don't think another Switch game, maybe Smash Brothers, has hit that price. I'm pretty sure all the other Switch games have been less than that, like at full price. And I think Breath of the Wild is, maybe alongside Smash, the most expensive of them all. And I feel like this might be the same situation where I'm not sure this is going to be it going forward, or if this is going to be, now the highest is 70.
This is the premium price, and everything else. But I feel like in America that's not been the case. And in the UK,
that's the thing isn't. That's not the case in, I think, any market but the UK. It's certainly not the case in the States.
Well, I mean, I think in Europe, Wackerhul in the Discord said it's 65 euros, so not quite that 10 increase, but still an increase. I don't know. I guess they charge what they feel they can and what people will pay, and I think they feel that people will pay $70 for Tears of the Kingdom, and I think they're probably right.
Oh yeah.
In the UK, it's £60, and which is the same price as Breath of the Wild. And I don't think they would. I think they would have a hard time getting 70 out of people for it and justifying it. I feel like they have a hard time justifying $70, but I think they're going to get it anyway.
I think they're going to get away with it because of what it is, right? Like it's the sequel to the most successful game in a storied franchise, right? Like everybody wants this game, and they're going to pick it up day one for $70, I think. But yeah, I mean, I got to be honest with you. I think this is not a great look for them, and I'm not happy that I'm going to spend $70 on it. And I know, like, I've been very, very vocal about I don't think it's problematic that games cost $70 now, at least in the States. The price of video games hadn't gone up in 2 generations, right? So I'm not happy to spend $70 on a new AAA game, but I get it, right? Like I can rationalize it to myself.
Yeah, especially when you consider inflation in the last year, I feel like that's got to have contributed to it, and exchange
Sure.
rates. You know, they're a Japanese company. I'm sure that factors into it as well. But like you say, I think for me, it's just we spoke about the inconsistency with Nintendo as a whole. I think for me, it's the inconsistency in pricing. Why is Metroid Prime Remastered $40, but Kirby's Return to Dreamland is 50, and so is Advance Wars? But then Zelda's now 70. It's just like there's no norm in the pricing with them. They really just like charge what they think it's worth and look at every game on what seems to be like an individual level. And it's just like, yep, this one we can charge 70 for. This one we can probably only charge 35
That's the thing,
for.
though, right? It's like that's not the case in my country, right? Like there are.
I mean, it is now. Like Metroid Prime Remastered
Yeah,
is $40.
but
Why is that $40?
Those are
but
two
Kirby's
unique
50?
games, right? Like every other Nintendo published game that wasn't clearly a indie downloadable only title, every boxed copy game has been $60. Period. And I think there are a lot of games they charge $60 for that had no business being $60. Looking at you on 2Switch.
The Mario collection.
I mean that's a whole other conversation, right? Like, because I think everybody thinks retro content should cost a different amount. So, but that said, right? Like, I think you're right. They're charging $70 for this because they think they can get away with it, and it's like this is the new standard for big AAA games, right? Like God of War costs $70. Why can't Tears of the Kingdom?
Yeah, but it's strange because Pikmin 4 isn't 70.
Right.
It's back down at 60. So it's just, I think Max is right. It's just Tears of the Kingdom. They've looked at this one game and they've said that this is the sequel to Breath of the Wild. And as you said, it's one of the most popular games, beloved. It's won so many. I mean, this game's won so many Game of the Year awards before it's even come out. It's won like most anticipated game at 11 years running. So like they know it's going to be a popular game, and they want to make as much as they can.
I think this is another vote in the section of hardware news is closer than we think.
I disagree entirely. I feel like if you were gonna announce hardware, I mean, maybe you announce it alongside Zelda, but I feel like because we had that leak of the special edition Zelda console, unless that was fake, which it didn't look like, I kind of feel like new hardware's further down the line because you would launch this alongside a fresh new console. You'd want the footage to look as good as it could, and
I
you'd
think that's
want
what's
to talk
going to
about
happen.
that.
I think it's going to be a staggered release. I think that they're going to release a new version of this game alongside the new hardware, and that's why it's $70. That's kind of where I'm leaning now. That might just be nonsense, and they might have just decided to do it for this one game, but that seems crazy to me because I know that.
But if that was the case,
they want to
like
charge
Pikmin,
$70,
which is out. Like,
right?
I feel like if Pikmin that's out 2 months later, I feel like that would have then been priced at 70. They would have just like gone, well, Pikmin 4 is also going to be 70 because that's going to be on the next gen.
What if it's not?
But I don't. Wait, but I mean, Pikmin 4 will be right. It's a new title. I mean, unless
But again, what does that mean?
Remaster the games,
right? When you say will be, like, will it be playable on that hardware? Sure. Will it have a next gen version? Not necessarily. I could see them doing like a Game of the Year type, like this is the ultimate edition of Tears of the Kingdom that's on the new hardware and it's a new SKU. And in the way that they sold a GameCube version of, Twilight Princess and a Wii version of Twilight Princess, and they are different games in some ways, right?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't see that personally. I kind of just see it as it's one game and they release it, and I feel like people would just, if that's the case, wouldn't they have charged $59.99 for the Switch version, then $69.99 for the more expensive version, rather than charging the same price on both platforms? Like, if that's gonna,
I don't know.
I don't know.
But the thing is, I don't think any of the things we've said are a satisfying answer to the question, right? Because being like, well, then why wouldn't they charge $70 for Pikmin 4? Is it because they think they can't get $70 for it? Because
yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. Is they look at games and they're just like, what can we make for it?
Yeah, but
why are they not charging 60 for Metroid Prime?
I don't see how you can say that that's how they do things when these are literally the only examples we have of them doing that. Yeah, maybe it's representative of new behavior.
I mean that's like a US perspective. In the UK, that's how it's been done for the whole generation.
Sure.
And maybe they're just now taking that practice to other regions.
I don't know. I have a hard time believing that. I really do. because like it's
It's like
crazy.
it's not the only examples. Like Switch Sports was a $40 title. You've got Bayonetta, which was a $30 title. Which
Wait,
was a
what do you mean?
re-release.
The remaster.
Yeah, like
Bayonetta.
they've priced other games at different prices. It's not the only examples that we've got, or Metroid Prime Remaster and Tears of the Kingdom. There are other examples like I said, like Bayonetta and
Bayonetta 1 and
Nintendo
2.
Switch Sports were different prices.
Bayonetta 1 and 2 in that double pack was the same. Was like
The full
50
price
quid
game.
or whatever it was. So by that, I mean, Bayonetta 2 was therefore a cheaper game, right?
Yeah, because you could buy Bayonetta 2 and get a copy of Bayonetta 1 as well. That was another thing that they offered at one point.
Yeah, and then WarioWare Get It Together. That's a $50 title. Game Builder Garage. That's a $30 title.
That doesn't count.
That's a $50 title.
That's an indie eShop thing. Like I'm talking about games that are sold as boxed copies.
Yeah, but WarioWare Get It Together is in a box. It's $50. Miitopia is in a box. It's $50.
I don't think
they do this.
That's the thing. I don't think that's true in other markets though. Like I know that.
I'm looking at Nintendo.com, and that is the case. I'm looking at it's been priced in dollars. I don't know about. I mean, I can talk about the UK and the US, but I don't know about other regions. Like they definitely do charge. It seems like what they feel like they can get away with.
No, you're right. For Get It Together, that is $50 in the US as well.
And Clubhouse Games, that's a $40 title. So they do this from time to time. It now just looks like they've gone the other way and they're charging more for Tears of the Kingdom.
It's weird. It's definitely weird. But I don't know. I guess maybe they're just trying to cash in on the recognition, right, and the hype and anticipation for it. But it seems an odd choice, honestly, to me, to not adopt it across the board at a period and make it this is what our games cost now, But I don't know. It's weird because like you could understand why they would charge more or less for something like the Bayonetta Origins game, right? Because that's a different type of game. That's like a more indie, quote unquote, style game. So like I would expect that to cost less. But like
it's boxed though.
And is that $60 or is it?
That is $60.
Like
yeah,
that's weird.
$60.
That is weird. It's weird that costs the same amount as Breath of the Wild, right? Like that. It's very strange. But I guess you're right, Steve. I guess this is an experiment, and I guess they'll see what happens.
Yeah, like I don't understand why Metroid Prime Remastered is only $40 in a box.
No, it really doesn't make sense.
To me.
That seems like that should be a $60 game.
Yeah, if they're going to continue that, yeah.
Like you're telling me that game's worth $40 and Kirby Star Allies is worth $60? Like I don't. How does that add up? I don't know. It's strange. But anyway, we'll leave it there for today. Thank you guys for joining us on another episode of Nintendo Noise. If you want to write in and let us know what you thought of today's Nintendo Direct, there's a bunch of ways you can do that. Head over to flipscreen.games. That's our website where you can find our email address. You can join the Discord. However you choose to get involved, we thank you for tuning in for another episode of the show. And go click some links. Do us a solid. It doesn't cost you a nickel, and it helps us out quite a bit. But if you do have some nickels for us, head over to Patreon. You can get all kinds of special perks and goodies. You can become a Patreon producer. You can do all kinds of good stuff. So however you choose to show your support, we thank you again for tuning into this week's show. And we'll catch you next week for another episode of Nintendo Noise. Take it easy, everybody.